Hello, everyone. It's 2 p.m. Guadalajara and Bogota time. That also makes Medellin time. So we're just doing small technical adjustments to the screen. In the meantime, I'll tell you that I am Ismael Kurot, and I am the project manager for the RIESAL project. RIESAL is an acronym, for those of you who might not know by now, of Red Regional para el Fomento de la Internacionalización de la Educación Superior en América Latina y el Caribe. This is an Erasmus Plus project co-funded by the European Union. And amongst the many objectives and deliverables this consortium or project has is the webinars. We are very pleased to welcome you to our 5th webinar. They are all free of charge because of this generous co-funding from the European Union. And RIESAL is made up of 17 different institutions and organizations throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, plus 4 more European partners. So many of our partners have already established dates for the webinars. This is the 5th one, and there are 10 more to come. And at the end of this presentation, we will share with you the dates for the next 2. Now, I would like to introduce to you or present to you the mechanism of this webinar. Due to the amount of participants, it is quite impossible to pass down the microphone to any of you. So what we are suggesting, we kindly ask you to type your questions in the chat room, the little box that is at the bottom right of your screen. Please state your name, the institution you're working at or you're coming from, and your country. Then please proceed typing your question, and we will present these questions at the end of the presentation for our participants, to our presenter to address them. It is 2 or 3 p.m. With any further ado, I would love to introduce to you the topic of this webinar. It is titled Creating a Multifaceted Strategy to Brand Your Institution Internationally. And it's going to be on behalf of EAFIT. EAFIT is based out of Medellin, is a member university of this consortium. And the person in charge of this webinar is Mike Henninger. Mike Henninger has a Master of Arts in Education, Leadership, and Administration from Gonzaga University at Spokane, Washington State. He is currently the Vice President for Sales and Marketing at ISEF. Mike has been in the field of international education his entire professional career and has worked in the university, vocational, and language training sectors. Mike has a passion for marketing and recruitment and has worked in more than 50 countries with various roles in international education. He is an experienced senior administrator, skilled in departmental leadership, staff supervision, and evaluation, as well as sound fiscal management. Mike is a recognized global thought leader and international educator. He works closely with the CEO to extend ISEF relations with institutions, associations, and government bodies in a lobbying and relationship building capacity to further ISEF interests. So at this very moment, I would like to turn on the microphone to Mike, and we'll be paying attention to his presentation, and we will collect your questions in English from the chat room. Thank you and welcome to this 5th webinar from Riazal. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Ismail. That was told a lot about me. Just checking, is my microphone and camera working fine, Ismail?
Sorry, the delay on the answer, but to avoid echo, every time I stop talking, I have to turn off my mic manually. So that's why if you and I interact, it would take me 2 or 3 seconds to turn on the mic. But yes, in my opinion, your voice comes loud and clear.
But the camera is not on.
Excellent. Well, I'll jump right into it.
Yeah.
Camera should be... There we go. Excellent. Sorry about that. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Ismail. And thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I really want to thank Riazal, Webinar5 EAFIT, and the European Union for allowing me to speak with you today. I'm really excited to spend the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour, to talk to you about creating a successful, multifaceted strategy to brand your institution internationally. A little bit about my background. I've been 3 years in my role now with ICEF as VP Sales and Marketing. And it's a unique job because we organize 16 events around the world, places like Berlin, Bogota, Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Kiev, Moscow, which bring educational agents and recruiters together. But in that capacity, I get to speak to many different institutions, many different educators from all around the world. And I see what they're doing effectively, and I see what challenges they have in building their brand internationally. So I'm able to see a lot of best case practice, which I hope to share with you today. Previously to joining ICEF, I spent 5 years as a director and managing director of a public university in British Columbia, Canada, where I'm broadcasting from today. Hello from Vancouver. But I worked for Thompson Rivers University to attract international students there and built up a successful program. Now they have over 2,000 international students. More than 20% of their intake is international. So I'll be sharing some of those ideas. Before that, I was the marketing director for one of the largest chain of vocational schools in Canada. We were recruiting up to 10,000 international students per year. So like I said, I'm going to be trying to share some very practical things, some big picture ideas, what I think overall you should be thinking about, and then also some tips and tricks that when you go into the office tomorrow, you think these are things that I can implement and I can use right away. So I'm going to hop right into it and look at our first slide. And when we look at a marketing and recruitment plan for higher education institution, or there's so much we need to do. It's very complicated, and I think one of the biggest things that I hope that you take away from the presentation today is that just doing one thing, any one of these numbers alone is not enough, and a multi-channel strategy that's connected to other things that you're doing. So your partnerships are connected to agents, are connected to alumni, and I'll drill down a little bit more on that, but leaving you thinking with, are we doing these things? Do we have a big picture? Do we have an overall strategy for the next 3 to 5 years on how we want to brand our institution internationally? So when we go around the wheel, starting from number one, and I will touch on all of these during my presentation, and some in greater detail, some in smaller detail, but I will touch on all of these, is one, when we're branding an institution, the use, of course, of internet, web, and social media, and having a strategy, an effective website, an effective strategy to digitally project your brand globally. Education agents, and when we look at what ICEF does, ICEF stands for International Conferences and Education Fairs, and our primary business is working in the education agent space and bringing quality agents to institutions and helping them meet their recruitment goals that way. So one of the important channels, and I will dig down deeply into this today, is working with education agents. The other one is government organizations, and even just the organizations that are putting on this webinar today are part of that puzzle, but how do you involve yourself with government organization? Institutional cooperations, and I suspect that I might get a chance to meet many of you in NAFSA in 2 weeks. I'll be there as well. ICEF will have a booth 1,000. I'll make that note now. So this webinar is always a little bit of impersonal medium to be able to speak with you. So I hope in Philadelphia you stop by and introduce yourself and say hi at booth 1,000. But many of you will be going there for institutional cooperations, 2+2 agreements, study abroad, exchange, all of that. And of course, this is a very important channel for branding your institution. 5 is alumni and how you're using your international student alumni to help further develop your brand. And I have several slides on this later in the presentation, but I do find this is something that institutions do very poorly. Our alumni are our best ambassadors. They've had a wonderful time at your institution. They've had a wonderful time in your country. We need to be able to leverage them and use them effectively to brand our institution. So we'll talk about that. Number 6 is advertising. And are you using things like local newspapers, magazines, agent brochures to be able to help develop your brand? And last is fairs and exhibitions, whether they're student fairs or agent fairs like we do. All of these are things that are channels that we need to look at to effectively brand our institution. And one thing that I would like to point out is that none of these things stand alone. And I talk to a lot of people about their marketing and recruitment plans, and they don't have an overall strategy. We're going to Mexico to recruit. We're going to do a student fair there. Okay, well, how are you following up on those leads? What's your long-term strategy? And they have more one-off things that they do as opposed to having an overall overarching strategy that they employ. And one thing that I'd like to mention and leave you with on this slide is that all of these things are connected together. For example, when you use education agents, and maybe you have agents in Spain, for example. Spain is a long trip for us to get over from this continent to Spain and to go and train agents. Do you have good alumni in Spain that could go visit your agents, that could do student seminars on your behalf? You know, when you're looking at doing social media and you're having a post, maybe one of your, again, I'll use a student from Spain is doing a blog for you, and I'll talk about student ambassadors later on. Are your agents aware of that? Do you have alumni going to student fairs? Are you taking your advertising and directing it back to your website and back to your social media channels? And what we see is that institutions that are really effectively marketing your recruitment and have a strong branding strategy, they're very good at connecting all of these things together. And I'll leave you one example of this, and that is, I see people using Facebook, and they'll say things on a marketing material, on a brochure or something that says, like us on Facebook, with the Facebook icon on there. And I always question that. Like you on Facebook, why? Why should I like you on Facebook? What's the advantage of me liking you on Facebook? And if you put something like us on Facebook to learn about scholarship opportunities to study in Brazil, or like us on Facebook to learn more about how students are being successful with their studies in Colombia, now you've given a reason to join, and you connected back your brochure to your social media channel. People will go to your Facebook page, then they'll hopefully go to your website. So what we see now, and I'll speak more about millennials in a few slides and how young people view information, but very much what I want to tell you is that they look for information now different than I looked for it when I was young. When I made a decision on going to the university that I chose, I had a brochure from that university. I got all of my information from that brochure, and I made that choice. That's no longer the case. And what we see is that students look for information like a treasure hunt. They find some information here, it leads them there, it leads them there, and they bounce around. So when you're doing all of these things, and when you have these channels, think about how are you connecting them there? How are you driving people to your website? Are you encouraging people to go to your social media channels? Are you involving your alumni in your branding and marketing? Are you using agents and making sure that they have the information? Are you giving your leads from student fairs to agents to follow up on that? So thinking more about how you can be out there in many different ways and how you can connect that back to your website and having strong calls for action. When I look at the agent recruitment funnel here, and I actually maybe could be titled just the recruitment funnel, and this is all of the things that students go through in the journey to come to your institution. And when I was working at Thompson Rivers University in Canada, I was really trying to be aware of everything through this funnel, from a student does not know about me to a student arrives on the campus. So you see the top of the funnel, obviously it's very big. And if I think about all of these things that I just showed you on this previous slide, internet, agents, government organization, institutional cooperation, alumni, advertising, fair and exhibitions, those are all the things that are up at the top of this funnel above awareness. You're using agents to generate awareness. You're attending affairs to generate awareness. You're using your alumni to generate awareness. You have social media campaigns to generate awareness. Your 2+2 agreements are generating awareness. And I know I'm repeating myself here, but I really want to get this point home. All of the different things that you can do up at the top of this funnel, so people become familiar with the name of your institution. And also, when I'm looking at Latin America, and I'm looking at the countries that we're talking about, I think a lot of this awareness has to be at the country level. When I started working at Canada, recruiting into Canada 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was much different. Right now, Canada is such a popular country. It's very easy to attract international students here. But when I was working, a lot of the awareness that I was doing is I was generating awareness at a national level. And I'll come back to that. I'll speak more about that. So you have awareness, all of those things. Next, you have consideration and request information. Consideration is, again, going back to that treasure hunt mentality. They know they want to study in Columbia. They know they want to study engineering. Now they're considering which school is best. They're going to Google study in Columbia, engineering. They're going to find your institution. They're going to go to your social media channels. They're going to try and find testimonials, all of these things. So again, the same point that I was making before, having information in multiple spots that is interactive, video content, these type of things, this will be very important at this consideration phase. Then you have the request information, application, and admission. One thing that I would leave you here with, and that is time. I'm going to come back in the next slide talking a little bit about millennials and how they view their time. But the most important thing to every step of this funnel, every step of students or agents interacting with your school, is that you respond to them in a timely manner. I think in education, we are very poor at this. And I have clients, for example, in the US, that a student inquires and says, I would like to consider applying to your university, and they don't hear anything back for 4 weeks. This just does not work. Students will go somewhere else. They're impatient. So through all of this, the request information, the application, the admission process, all the way through to enrollment, is providing information very, very quickly. We did a poll. Every year we do something called the iGraduate ICEP Agent Student Barometer, and we poll more than 1,000 agents who are sending 250,000 students abroad each year. And we ask these agents, what's the most important thing that institutions can do for you to help you market them? Their number one answer is time, responding back in a quick and efficient manner. So what you need to realize, especially in the agent space, these agents' parents and the students are going into the agent's office every day. They're asking, have you heard back from the university? Have you heard back from the college? And if they haven't heard back from you, it puts them in a very difficult situation. So whether we're dealing with students, parents, international education agents, all the way through that process, like I said, being quick and being efficient and being effective is key. So to kind of reinforce that point that I was speaking to you about time, I did some research on millennial traits and the young people that we're dealing with, our prospective students. And we looked at what are some key traits that they have. And one is, the first one is 70% of them self-identify as impatient. They say, I'm an impatient person, 70% of that. 71% say most important for a brand to value their customers' time. I find that very, very powerful because they say 71%, more of them say it's important to value their time than it is to have a good product. So again, we're used to this day of Uber and all of these things online where everything is very, very quick. And I heard someone say in a presentation now that millennials' attention span is less than that of a goldfish. A goldfish has a longer attention span than a millennial does. So we can see here again how important when you're branding your institution, when you're marketing and your recruitment, It's so hard at that top of the funnel to get awareness. It's very, very difficult. And then when you get that awareness, to lose them in those next steps because you're too slow and ineffective, that's painful. You really, really need to get your processes in place. At Thompson Rivers University, our application process was 48 hours. A student would apply, they'd have their offer letter from me in 48 hours. And that was one of the biggest differentiators for our brand that we had. We felt that was really, really important. So really think about your time and how quick you are getting back to students. And the last point here, it just says 52% will abandon online purchases if they can't find a quick answer. And when they're looking at a university, what our research shows is that most students are looking at 3 or 4 possible universities when they're making a choice. They'll often go with the one that responds to them in the most quick manner. So some tips for marketing to millennials. One is focus on content. And I've looked at a lot of university websites over the years. And when you go to a university website, especially in Latin America, it'll be a Spanish website. Of course, your main feature is Spanish or Portuguese or going after your domestic students. Then there'll be a very small international page. The content on there often is not engaging for international students. I'm going to come back and talk to you. And one of the most important things I think I'll say to you on this webinar that I feel is the type of content that you have on your website, in your brochures, things like housing, safety, but I'll come back to that. Focus on content. Think like your student. The joke that I often make is you go to 80% of university websites and the front page is a message from your president or rector. It's a long 3-page message that goes down. You have to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, and it's the message from the rector, message from the president. I'll give you a little tip. No one cares about your president. The students don't care about your president. The parents don't care about your president. Agents don't care about your president. The only people that care about your president is the president. So why have that as the main page on your website? Give them content there that's going to help them make their decision. Provide visual and interactive content, videos and photos. I'm going to speak about videos later on the presentation. Optimize for multiple devices. As we're looking in markets, if you're recruiting from places like Africa, India, Southeast Asia, 100% they're going to be exploring your website with their phone. They are not going to be using a laptop. They're not going to be a desktop. You know this. Your content has to be optimized for iPads and for cell phones. Be transparent. Tell them honestly, what is your value proposition? We have something, we have a newsletter called ICEF Monitor, and I'm sure many of you will follow ICEF Monitor. It's a free newsletter. It goes out to over 40,000 people in our daily newsletter, and every day we share a piece of information about international student marketing. So if you don't follow ICEF Monitor, like I said, it's completely free. Jot that down and please do go and subscribe to ICEF Monitor. There's some really valuable content there. But when we talked about transparency, we talked about branding on Monitor, we actually have something called 3 Under a Tree, where every brochure, every website, every university has is 3 students standing outside in the grass under a tree, looking at each other, smiling, looking at an iPad or laptop or cell phone. Every university or college uses that same photo. It's 3 under a tree. They're all saying, we're a quality institution, we're a research institution, we have the best professors. Everyone is saying the same thing. Really think about what your value proposition is. Is it affordability? Is it your programs? Is it your small class sizes? Show that content in your marketing material. Show reviews. We see again and again and again that students are looking for what other students say. And I really think that having video content, student testimonials on your website, on your YouTube channel, all of these things are very, very, very key. The other thing is engage. Millennials want to be involved. Talk to them. When they're applying, don't just send them back information. They say, I'm interested in your engineering program. You send them a PDF on engineering. What would you like to do in your career? What are you looking to, what kind of things do you want to do in your life? Engage with them. I think personal contact is important in any kind of marketing, recruitment, or branding that we do. And with millennials, it's even more important. And choose the right channels. I'll come back to that and talk about the channels that we need to use. Reaching students, and again, thinking at the top of that funnel, whether it's awareness and consideration, those two top things that we talked about. But when you're reaching students, you need to be bold. You need to go after them, and you need to think like the students that you want to enroll. And it goes back, I think, to the website and that content with your president. That's not the information they want. They want to know that how your programs are going to help them achieve their life goals. They want to know how it's going to, living in Brazil and coming to your institution in Brazil, how that's going to change their life, what the living is going to be like. Then share their experience. When you have international students, nothing can be more powerful. When students see someone like me, a professional marketing and recruitment person, they know that it's our job to sell. They want to be able to engage with other students. So whether having students answer questions on your social media channel, preparing video, writing blogs, I think one of the most effective things that you can do is when you have international students, give them a small scholarship and ask them to write a blog about their studies on your campus. They're coming to Mexico, they're in Cuernavaca, they're having a wonderful time. Share that on your social media channels, share that on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Put their blog on your website. That's real content, and that's going to be much more engaging than just static, boring content that so many of us have in our marketing materials. Skip along here. Honestly, as I go through this presentation and I speak with you today, I do feel, and I give these presentations a lot, and I talk about this particular slide a lot, I feel in my years of recruitment and what I see other institutions, other countries doing, I think this perhaps will be the most important slide that I'll share with you. And this is from a lot of research that we've done about what impacts international students. When they're looking to make a choice of country, city, and institution, what are questions they ask agents? What are questions they look on your website to find? These are the things that they worry about most. Number one is financial difficulty. The biggest thing that students worry about is, can I afford it? No matter what country they're coming from and what country they're going to, they worry about affordability. When I look at Latin American institutions and the institutions that you represent on this webinar today, I think this is one of the biggest advantages you have, is that you have affordable living and you have affordable tuition in many cases. I live in Vancouver. It's now over $1,500 US to rent a small, tiny flat in Vancouver. Tuition prices are going up at colleges and universities for international students at near double-digit figures every year. I talked to one college here, they have too many international students, they're raising tuition by 20% in a one-year period. 20%. Affordability is becoming one of the biggest issues, and one of the things that we're going to see is the traditional markets, Canada, US, UK, Australia, they're getting more and more expensive, and students are looking for other options they can afford. You might be one of those options. But again, put this on your website, share it on your social media channels, get students to talk about it in a small video. Do you find it affordable to study in Mexico City? Do you find it affordable to study in Bogota? Have them speak about that and share that information. Affordability is very key. Number two is personal safety. No matter where they are, people worry about safety. And I think that's one of the challenges that some of you might have. When I think of some of the cities that you might be living in, the reputation might not be a super safe place. You need to deal with that. You need to deal with how the safety of your campus, the safety of accommodation that you provide. Parents and students are worrying about this. You can say, we're not going to address it, we're not going to have it on our website, we're not going to have it on our brochure, but they're asking those questions. They're asking them in an agent's office, they're doing research online about the safety of your cities. You need to talk about this. Mothers all over the world, God bless their soul, worry about the same thing. They worry about little Mary, or they worry about little John being safe and they send them to another country. If you're not dealing with this in your marketing materials on your website, you're missing. Number three, and going over to the other side, is the language barrier. The students themselves worry about, if I'm coming to study in a place like Colombia, like Uruguay, like Mexico, my Spanish, it's okay, but will I be able to survive? Talk about what supports you have for them. Talk about how, if, do you have Spanish studies on class? Do you have people who speak English or their native language well that can help their parents if they have questions? The language barrier is something that they really, really worry about. So we have number 1, financial difficulty, number 2, safety, number 3 on the other side, language barrier. Number 4 is housing. And this comes up again and again and again. And housing is one of the biggest problems before making a decision and even after arrival on campus. We did a poll to ask what's the biggest problem students have after arriving in a country. The biggest problem they have is they don't like their housing. Do you have a residence? Do you have a homestay? What are your accommodation options? How much does that cost? When you're looking at branding, when you're looking at your marketing and recruitment material, again, you can really use that to combat the traditional markets of places like London, Vancouver, New York, Toronto, LA, Sydney. They're very, very unaffordable. Housing is very, very expensive. And so having things in your marketing materials that said something like this, Medellin, get a wonderful education at a very affordable price. Our tuition is this and our housing is this for a total cost per year of this. Get out and say that right in front, and I think it's going to be very powerful for you in your marketing. And those 4 at the top, housing, language barrier, financial difficulty, and personal safety, those are actually the biggest 4 that we have. Quality of education, well, I think probably in some emerging markets for attracting international students, you'll have to talk about that. What are your accreditations, all of those things. But I see most people do that fairly well. And then the last thing is cultural difficulties. And we can market and recruit and brand as well as good as we can. But if students come to your campus, if they come to your country and they don't have a good time there, they don't fit in, they don't make friends, when they tell other people back home how it is studying at your campus, even though your education might be very good, they're going to have a negative opinion about that. So cultural difficulties, activity programs, peer buddy systems, anything that can help that student enjoy their time on your campus is essential, because what we know with social media and with the communication channels we have now is that students are sharing their experience. And like I said, the brand of your institution does not stop when the students leave the classroom. It's in the housing, it's in the living, it's in the food that they eat. All of those things will impact their view of what it's like to study in your country and study at your institution. So think about all of that. So yeah, the other thing that I would just note is if you go to the ICEP.com and you search the agent barometer, you can find a ton more information on this. This is just one slide. There's a whole wealth of information there. So I'd encourage you to go in and take a look at that. I'm going to skip over these next few slides fairly quickly, but I thought it was important and I added it into this presentation because we are looking, when we speak about your countries, we are looking at emerging markets for receiving international students. But what we are finding is that, one, the US has a very negative image right now. Canada's full. Australia has limited capacity. The UK has a ton of problems with their immigration law, and they're actually slowing down their immigration, in that students more and more are going to other destinations than the main kind of mainstay destinations that we think of, such as Canada, US, Australia, UK, and so on. You know, by now, some studies, China has over 10% of market share of inbound student mobility. So you see China, Southeast Asia, India is looking to recruit students. But starting with branding your country, and I think is going to be so important, or even branding the entire region. And, you know, US right now has a You Are Welcome Here campaign, and I'd encourage you to search that hashtag if you're not familiar with it, because you'll get a lot of good marketing marketing ideas there. The UK is doing We Are International, but really, you know, all institutions go out and they think about branding their institution first, but you have work to do before you get there. When I started at Thompson Rivers University, it was close to 9 years ago. Canada was a much different place there. I would go to fairs in India and I would see the UK and Australian institutions at the fairs, and they'd have students lined up to speak to them. 50, 60 students waiting to speak to their institution. My poor booth, I couldn't get one student to come over. I was trying to give them, you know, TRU, Moose mascot, or pens, please come talk to me. And And so it was much more difficult than it is now. And really, we did some things that I think were very effective in branding what it was like to live in Canada, what it was like to live in Kamloops, which is the city Thompson Rivers University is in there. And I remember one thing that we did is we gave 10 students a GoPro camera. And, you know, GoPro are those cameras like snowboarders or surfers use to film their extreme sports. But we gave those to 10 students and we asked them to film 2 weeks of their lives, and we ran a competition. We chose 4 students and we made a 2-minute video that captured what their life was like in Canada and what their life was like at the university. And it was, you know, experience, friendship, memories with the title of the video. And if you go on YouTube and search Thompson Rivers University GoPro videos, you can find those. But I kind of find that that was a tipping point in our marketing because students weren't really concerned about the quality of their education. They're like, Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada, what's it like? And we showed students having fun. We had showed students playing sports, hanging out with their friends. And it really showed people, you know what? That's a place that looks like fun. That's a place like I could live there for a few years. So think about that as you're going out and as you're looking to brand your institution, be more successful in recruiting international students. It starts with the country and then moves on to the city, and make sure that you have good information that you're sharing that really speaks to students about that. I'm going to switch now and talk probably for the next 10 minutes on agents. And it's, you know, I've been working with agents in recruitment all my life, and agents really are your remote team. And this is something where if you like to learn more about agents, even I'm going to speak on 10 minutes on this. I often do 3-hour sessions on just working with agents. So this is where, again, I really encourage you, if you'd like to speak more about this to me, do come by the ISEF booth at NAFSA if you're there, or send me an email. And I'd love to have me or one of my team. I have Spanish-speaking staff and Portuguese staff that can go over a lot of this with you. But agents are really have the ability to be your remote team. And what I'm going to talk about is making sure that you have a good relationship with the agents that you work with. People sign contracts with an agent and they start to recruit students in. And as soon as institutions sign a contract with that agent, they say, you know what, we signed a contract, now it's up to the agent to work and to recruit students for us. But really, it's always a two-way street. You need to be working closely and helping your agents help you and recruit for you. And I have one saying, I have one expression that I love to use in my presentations when I talk about working with agents, and that is this. Agents send students to people that they like. Again, one more time. Agents send students to people that they like. And note that I don't say agents send students to institutions that they like. Of course, the institution is very important, but agents are very worthy that if they're going to send a student to Mexico City, that the person on the other side there is going to take care of them. And if there's a question from the parents or if they need help, that they'll be able to contact someone and that someone's going to be able to help them. I have a colleague named Birgit that I work with at ISEF, and she ran a high school program in Winnipeg, Canada. And if you haven't traveled to Winnipeg, it's a lovely city. There's not a lot there. It's not a famous international destination. It's cold in the winter. There's no mountains. There's no ocean. But she ran one of the most successful high school programs in Canada in terms of international. She recruited almost all of her students through agents, many from the countries that you guys live in. And what she told me is that the most important thing that she did is that she made a relationship with the agents that she worked with that sent. So the first thing that I would say is if you're really serious about international student recruitment, and say you have 40 international students now, and you want to build that in the next 3 years to 250 students, that's an achievable goal. I believe every institution has its niche. Every country has the ability to recruit. Agents can play a very significant part of that puzzle. But what I would say is that's not something you can do passively. You need to have someone dedicated to working with those agents. If that agent has a question, you're able to answer quickly. If you have someone traveling to events such as ISEF, to meet with agents, to do training, to visit them in country. So they're your remote team. But when you think about your team members, the people that are on your campus, your coordinators, your managers, your directors, you're all communicating to each other. You all keep each other up to speed. You have regular meetings. It's exactly the same with agents. They're a part of your team. You need to treat them like that. So one of the questions that I often get is, how many agents should I work with? And the answer to that is, how many agents can you support well? If you can only give your time and support a good relationship with 20 agents, you can work with 20 agents. If you have the resources, the staff, and the capacity to work with 250 agents, you can work with 250 agents. But you need to be able to support them. And I think probably for this, I won't go into these tiers too much. I hope we can share this PowerPoint. I know it's going to be on YouTube after as well. I encourage you to come back and take a look at these slides, or come back and I can email you these tiers in more direct terms so that you can go through there, because I have even more points in these. But really what you're looking at is working with agents is that not everyone's going to be sending you a student every semester. Some agents are going to be promoting you very actively, and these are the tier 1 agents that I have in this slide here. And their definition is that these are top performing agents whose relationships are prioritized and carefully nurtured. These are the ones that you have to support. I remember I had an agent in Russia who had about 60 offices through Russia called Students International. They were my top agent at Thompson Rivers University, a clear top 1, tier 1 agent. Whenever they sent an application, I instructed my admissions staff that no matter if there's 200 applications, when an application came in from Students International, it came to the top of the pile. It was the first application that would be dealt with that day. I always prioritize that relationship. So when we look at the standards here on the left side, they contribute to your recruitment targets. They provide both quality and quantity. They contribute to diversity targets. Sometimes you might want 2 students from Brazil over 5 students from India, for example. So diversity becomes very, very important. And they have high application conversion rates. Those are some of the standards that you would look at for one of your top agent partners. What are your responsibilities? The institution activity, for example. You should visit these agents at least once a year. Sitting in your country, sitting in your office in your university, and never visiting another country is a very, very difficult way to recruit international students. And if you're serious about it, you need to be in country, you need to visit agents' offices, you need to do trainings, you need to do student seminars, you need to do all of those things that we talked about in the awareness part of the recruitment funnel that I talked about at the beginning of this presentation. You need to provide regular agent training and updates. So you're in regular communication with them. You need to implement a communication channel of 24 hour to 48 response time between that agent and school. If your agent's contacting you and you're waiting 3 weeks to get back to them, forget it. They've already gone somewhere else. One of the things too with working with agents is that people always think that every communication has to be a business meeting where it's like, oh, can we provide a training for you, or we want to provide updates on our new program. That's fine, and you need to do that. Agents need to be well trained. But my most productive agent relationships that I had when I was working closely with my agent partners, I would reach out at a personal level, Skype or WhatsApp, however you might communicate. And I would be just like, how are you doing today? How are things? It snowed in Canada. First snow in Kamloops yesterday. Here's a picture of the campus. It's beautiful. Just having these interactions, getting to know them on a personal as well as a professional relationship. And you'll be surprised at how many times I reached out personally to an agent just to say hello. And the conversation turns, do you know what, Mike? I might have a potential student for you. If I hadn't reached out to them, if I hadn't had that communication, would I still have that potential relationship or potential student? I don't think I would have. So communication with your tier 1 agents is key. Tier 2, these are the agents that you have a contract with, you have a relationship with, but perhaps they're not actively promoting you. So the definition is an agent who is actively or seeking to actively promote the institution and has placed students at the institution within the past year or even 2 years. So there's a relationship with them. So always what you're looking to do is your goal is to nurture these relationships and help them reach that tier 1 status. So even saying things to them like, how can I help you promote us? Can we do a social media campaign together? Can we do an online student webinar together? Being active with that partner is absolutely key. And when you look at the institution activity, you still see things like visit that agent once a year, provide regular updates and training. So all of these things are key. Skipping quickly to tier 3, and these are agents that that are in your database that you maybe met at an ICEP conference or they've contacted you. You may or may not have a contract with them. But I think it's important. You never know when a relationship can change. You never know when maybe your country becomes a more popular destination and these agents are looking for a strong option there. So having a quarterly agent newsletter at the least where you have updates on studying in Brazil, you have updates on studying in Uruguay, for example, they will read these things. So even if the agent's not actively promoting you and you're not getting students from them, keeping that database open and keeping regular communications with them, but not putting a ton of your time and energy into it. Your time and energy needs to be focused on your tier 1 and your tier 2 agents. These ones, you just stay in regular communication. So that's kind of a management system that I put in place to working with agents. Now, I know many of you might be kind of pre-using agents. You're thinking, should I use an agent? What's the best way to get started? Like I said, for that, if you have questions about that, those are conversations me and my team have every day with clients all around the world. So I really encourage you, if you're looking at exploring agents more, follow up with me. I'll have my email up and I'll get one of my team to contact you. And we can really go and explain how you contract with an agent, how you meet them, how you train them, the more basic stuff. And this is what you do once you have them. So like I said, I look forward to having further discussions with you there. So how do you evaluate your agents? And these are some of the things. These are what good agents will do. What's their application conversion rate? How many applications are they sending you? What's their visa acceptance rate? Noting that visa acceptance rates changes from country to country. Are they providing you diversity? Are they professional? Do they align with your brand? And also, are they an ICEP agent training graduate? This is very, very key. If you go to the ICEP.com and you look at agent training, we have a list of agents that are open, they're public, anyone can download the information to see agents that have been conducted ICEP training and have gone through and studied on how to be a more professional agent. That's a great place for you to start if you want to start reaching out to some agents, is to go through the website and take a look at that. I'm going to start now, quickly go through, and I realize our time's getting a bit short, so I always talk too much at the beginning and then leave too much at the end. It's my presentation problem that I have. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these things in digital marketing, but I will kind of go over them fairly quickly. So digital marketing. So one of the things that we have that's absolutely key that I'll focus on is our third bullet point, which is paid search engine marketing, whether this is advertising on Facebook through social media, Google, Bing, etc., etc. What we see is that the majority of students will start by unbranded search. And what unbranded search means is that they don't type in University of British Columbia, Bachelor of Business Administration. They type in Bachelor of Business Administration, Canada, or Bachelor of Business Administration, Vancouver. So having some digital presence where if students search studying tourism in Latin America or studying business in Mexico, can they find your institution from that? And when you look at it, creating the awareness at the very top of the funnel, that is absolutely going to be essential. Having that information on your social media, having that information on your website. But think about it. If you're a student sitting in Canada and I want to study in Panama, for example, how do I find your institution there? Do you have a path that will find students here and then bring them down to your funnel until they enroll? And digital marketing is absolutely key for that. Skipped over one, I think. Email marketing is such an important part of digital marketing. And what I see is we go to things like student fairs and we go to a big fair like FPP or BMI, and you meet all of these prospective students. And then I ask institutions how they followed up with them. And they say, well, I sent them an email with a link to our website. And I say, well, when did you do that? I did that 4 months ago. What follow-up did you have after that? Oh, we did no follow-up. So an email marketing strategy is absolutely essential where you can continue to follow up with prospective students and also agents that you work with. And some key facts for there is that 8 in 10 email users will access their email over a mobile device. Again, having that information mobile friendly. So we see 75% of Gmail users access their email via mobile. So again, 7 to 8 people out of 10 will be on mobile. 30% of subscribers change their email address annually. So cleaning your information, whether it's working with agents or working with students, consistently updating your database. And if you're getting bounce rates, if your emails are all bouncing, you need to clean that up. But don't give up on those students. Regular communication through email, asking them to come to your social media channels, asking them to come to a virtual open house. How are you engaging them? The email part is very, very key. Video marketing. And I'll start by actually sharing a really quick story here. The CEO of ISEF, his niece just made a decision, this was in the last couple months, to go and study in September in Australia. We have a team in Australia, so he asked them to recommend some of the universities for her program that she was looking for. He gave her, I think, 5 universities. He said, these are options you should take a look at. She told him that she chose the final university that she applied to and subsequently got accepted to by one factor. She liked their video better than the other universities' videos. And we see video content is absolutely so key. 80%, you can see in these statistics, 80% increase in conversion by having a video on landing page. 73% increase in click to open rate by interactive email content. 300% increase in click rates by adding videos to your email. People want to see videos. Millennials especially focus on content. At ISEF, we have a division called ISEF Media. We help institutions and destinations prepare video, especially for attracting international students. And we see putting those things in, your value propositions I talked about before, affordability, housing, safety, all of those type of things, student testimonials. You need to have a nice corporate video, you need to have video about your destination, and you need to have video speaking with your international students, talking about their experience. If video is not part of your branding strategy, you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. You simply have to have it. Social media marketing, and this is actually one of my passions. At Thompson Rivers University, I really focused on social media marketing while I was there. Their international Facebook page now has over 500,000 people who follow it. It's top 20 in North America, and it really brought us a ton of branding. It brought us a lot of traction and visibility through our Facebook page. And this is one of the lessons that I learned at Thompson Rivers University on how to use social media. And that is for the information that we're putting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of these social media channels, is that 70% of that content should be entertainment, 20% should be information, and 5 to 10% should be collaboration, asking their opinion on something, asking them to get involved. If you look at what probably you're doing and what most institutions do, don't you see that those things are flipped around? Most institutions put 70% of their content is information and 20% is entertainment. When you think about why you go to YouTube, why do you go to Facebook for most times, it's because you want to watch cat videos. You're watching cat and rabbit videos. We need more cat videos. Make your social media channels fun. Make students want to go there to see. Put interesting pictures of your campus. Put funny things from your students. This will make your brand more attractive, more authentic. And then when you share that 20% of information about your marketing material or how to come and study at your institution, they're more likely to see it and they're more likely to pay attention. So lead with entertainment. Lead with fun stuff, images, videos, those type of things, and then mix in some information on information that's really key, like a bulletin board, and you'll see a lot more engagement. Your engagement goes up on your social media channels. And that was a formula that I used at TRU to really build our social media channels and get students involved in posting and being involved. I'll just skip over that case study. Skip that too, I'm just a little bit worried about time. Digital marketing, your website, we talked about that funnel and we talked about the wheel with all of the different channels. Your website is absolutely essential. It is the center of the hub. So if a student needs learns about your institution as an agent, they're still going to go to your website. They learn about it on social media, they're still going to go to your website. No matter what, they will be going to their website. And when you have a page for international students, you need to think about these things. You need to think about your content, you need to think about your design, you need to think about your metrics, and you need to think about usability. Content, I think I spoke a lot about in this presentation. You factor into those things that people worry about. Again, affordability, housing, safety, language, all of those type of things. Make sure you talk about that on your website. You have that there. You have images, you have good photos, you have video content. We know millennials like that, so you have that on there. So that's your design as well. You're designing simple pages that are interactive, that can take people, get people information that they need. Mixture between design and usability as well is that every one of your pages should have a call to action. Click here to speak to someone about studying at our institution. Click here to receive more information. Do they have to really work to find out how to contact someone? Your design and your usability, it should be right there. And with your metrics, are you checking this? Are you looking at on your Google Analytics? What are international students looking for on your website? What pages are they going to? Is that information easily accessible? If you're finding you have drop-offs off certain pages, make sure you put that more prominently. But really thinking about this content design, checking your metrics, and making sure it's very usable. Unfortunately, most of our international pages are an afterthought. We have our website and then say, oh, we need a page for our international students. Here's one page. You need to have more than that. And if you're working with agents, I would also suggest you need to have an agent portal where agents can go to download application information, information that helps them promote your institutions, brochures, content, links for them, FAQs. So have a login page on your website for your agents to be able to use. One of the last channels I'll talk about is alumni. And alumni are one of the most powerful tools you have, especially as you're really starting to get going. We all know that your students who come and are wonderful ambassadors. They love their time at your institutions, coming to a new country. It's a life-changing experience for them. You need to share this information. And your alumni network can be great for branding, for your reputation, for recruitment, for employability, for public diplomacy, for finance and fundraising, for scholarships and those type of things. But having an alumni network and using it, do you know your alumni in European schools? Do you know your alumni from Canada? It is absolutely so key, and I think especially if you have a smaller program, is to really stay in contact with your international students. And as I said, get them to do things like visit your agent's offices, have them attend student fairs with you. I had a wonderful couple from Germany who were very successful in their careers. To this day, they will take their weekends and go to student and agent fairs for Thompson Rivers University. We'd always fly them in, we'd give them a stipend per day, but they were very successful in their careers. They didn't do it for the money. They did it to stay connected to the university. And actually, true story, I had dinner with that couple two days ago here in Vancouver. They're actually in Kamloops visiting Thompson Rivers University. They attended school there more than 10 years ago. But they're an example of alumni that are very effective in continuing to build Thompson Rivers University brand. Just some quick facts about alumni from a study that was just done last year and released at NAFSA in 2017. 65% of American institutions reported having no dedicated staff time devoted to international alumni management. Over 50% reported that their institution's international alumni management program was not well organized, well resourced, planned, or consistent. Are you thinking about, as you grow your international program, how you're going to leverage your alumni, how you're going to stay in contact with them? Again, we have alumni services at ISEF, so if there's something you'd like to talk about and learn more about alumni. But the thing is, get thinking about that. You all have people on your campus that are wonderful ambassadors, but when they go home, you don't stay connected to them. And it's a real shame. You need to be thinking about that. And I think the one other point is reward them. If they're helping you, even if it's as simple as providing them a ticket and maybe 3 or 4 days hotel to come and visit you once a year. It's not a huge expenditure for you, but it will really go to make them more motivated to continue to be connected with you. One of the last slides that I'll leave you with is sharing the student's experience. And this is Florida International University, who I think are one of the best at doing this. They're consistently sharing what the student's experience is like, whether it's posting things on their Instagram, or when their students graduate, sharing their stories. You know, one of the things that agents tell me that's a frustration of working with institutions around the world is that they only hear from their students when they have a complaint. They never hear a positive story about their students, and that's a real shame. So when you see a student doing well, when they're having fun on your campus, get photos of that, get videos of that, share that with agents, share that with prospective students. This is the most authentic marketing material that you can have, and we don't use it. One story that I like to share is something that we did at Thompson Rivers University. At our orientation program, we'd make a list of students that were coming in, and maybe we were recruiting a student from a new agency in Sweden. And we'd look for that student, we'd find that student during the orientation, we'd give them a TRU, a Thompson Rivers University shirt to put on, and we'd give them the little TRU mascot, which is a stuffed moose. We'd have them stand with their student advisor. The weather's always nice in September. The students so happy because they just arrived in Canada. They're kind of living their dream of studying abroad. They haven't worried about tests yet. They're not worrying about study. You can see that smile on their face, the happiness in their eyes. And we take a picture on the campus with the mountains in the background, a really Canadian picture. I take that picture and I print it out. I put it in a frame that says Thompson Rivers University. I would write a personal note. Dear agency, thanks for sending your student to Thompson Rivers University. Here's a picture of Erica on campus with her student advisor. She's having a wonderful first week. Thanks again, Mike. We mail those things to our agents' offices around the world. You know how many times I've entered an agent's office and I've seen those actual pictures in those offices, and that is really powerful branding. But I think it's just an example of sharing what the student's experience is and thinking about how you can do that. That's kind of the end of the content of my presentation. I will leave you with this showing some of the different things that we do, the ISEF solutions that ISEF has for educators. Everything on the bottom right from the ISEF Monitor, which I said you should definitely check out. That's our free newsletter. We have alumni services where we help universities and institutions set up alumni offices around the world. We have course finders for language schools. We help people do video content for destinations and for institutions. We're best known for our agent workshops. Actually today, as we speak, we have an agent workshop taking place in Cape Town, South Africa. We have one in Southeast Asia coming up in about 4 weeks. So we do 16 events around the world. We do a lot of agent training to make sure that the best agents are working with ISEF and our institutions. If you're going to be at EAIE in Geneva this year, we have the Higher Education Partnership Forum, which we bring schools together who want to do 2+2 study exchanges, faculty exchanges. So that takes place. And then we have something, the last one is kind of a passion of mine. It's educator development and advisory services. And that's everything from professional development, speaking to faculty and to administration. I do a lot of that, to helping institutions with marketing plans and recruitment plans, doing external audits, all of those type of things. So we like to say if you have a problem, we believe ISEF has a solution that we can help you with your international program. You know, and leaving you with one comment: a student is a customer, and a satisfied customer is the best strategy of all. So all of the things that you can do for marketing and recruitment and attracting international students is secondary to the service that you provide them, the education that they receive, and the experience that they have in your country. So make sure that when your students arrive, you're best prepared. Students and agents now have a lot of choice, and they're going to go to where the best experience is, the best return on investment for their investment in tuition and cost of living. As we turn it over for questions, I'd ask you maybe quickly snap a photo of this. That's my name and email addresses. If you have other questions, be happy to follow up with you anytime. Give me an ad on LinkedIn. I like connecting with people on LinkedIn under Mike Henniger from ISEF. And And from there, I'll thank you for your time. A little over our hour allotment, but we'll see if there's any questions, and I'll pass it to our moderators to see if there's questions. But again, feel free to reach out directly, email or LinkedIn.
Well,
Or
thank you,
friends
Mike.
at NAPSA, and I'll
Thank you for
connect with
this
you guys.
presentation. This is valuable information for all our members and our attendants. We are gathering the questions now as we speak, and I would just love to take this opportunity to tell you that firsthand in my past job at the University of Guadalajara, I had the opportunity to work for a revenue center as the language immersion center for international students. And I attended several of the ISEF workshops and cities to recruit and to communicate and to choose agents. So yes, that's a very good option. But I'm very happy you also mentioned many other options beyond agents. So we have right here on the screen the questions that were presented, and I'll leave the microphone to you. And before I do that, I would like to ask you to give my warmest regards to Marcus. Yeah, please do.
Definitely. He's WhatsApping me I just was looking at my phone. He's WhatsApping, so I'll definitely pass that on. So I see some questions coming in. So can you give us examples of agents and institutions? So basically, if I look at explaining what an education institution, education agent is these are third-party recruiters that are set up around the world that will do marketing on your behalf. What you will do is you would sign a contract with these agents, which will then pay them a commission on your tuition. Now, the standard commission is somewhere between 15 and 20% usually of your first year or first 2 years of study. So they will do recruitment based on a commission structure. So you do not have to pay these agents up front. They will do the work for you. They're part of your team, and then they will send you students as they're able to find them in their destinations. We work with agents in basically every country of the world. The one country we do not have agents in is North Korea. Maybe with all the political stuff going on, maybe that'll be an opening market. But every other country we work with agents who are sending students abroad. So really what it looks like is your institution will meet with agents, sign a contract with them, and they will work on your behalf to do overseas recruitment. So Diana next has the question, do you know any agents-based strategy work with volunteers? I'm not sure I understand the question completely. Do you know any agents-based strategy working with volunteers? I'm assuming that this is, do you know of a strategy where you can work with agents who work on a volunteer basis? I don't know if that's the question. If that is, I would have to be very honest and say no. It's very competitive. Agents will be looking to receive a commission for this for the work that they do. It's very competitive, and in fact, for agents to recruit a student for you, they have digital marketing costs, office costs, staffing costs, all of those things that they need to work with as well to really be successful. So really, you're going to look at some kind of a compensation model that you're going to have to be able to provide that will get them working with you. Hi, Marcella. So what is the average cost of working with agents? Are there best practices in Latin American countries in marketing and recruitment strategies? So the first part of your question is, what is an average cost of working with agents? Really, the upfront cost is really only in meeting them. And you could come to an ISEF event and meet them, and you could travel in country and meet them. You can get them for free, like I said, from lists on our website. Then the cost becomes time, and I was tried to be very clear in my presentation that you need to provide good service to your agent partners. You need to be doing training. So you need to have staff to support them, and then it goes in terms of commission. And really, I would say honestly that when you're looking at a commission structure, most Canadian institutions provide a commission of around $1,500 or $2,500 Canadian. I think you need to be over $1,000 US to provide to agents to be able to get them interested. Oh, sorry, my French bulldog just wandered into my office and wanted to say hi. This is Crunch, everyone. So hello, hello from Crunch. Okay, get out of here. Sorry about that. So that's the average cost of working with agents. Are there any best practices in Latin American countries in marketing and recruitment? And Marcelo, what I would say to this is that I think general best case practice for marketing and recruitment is kind of standard across any market. So you know where there's some interest. So, and I'll be honest, I'm not a professional in recruiting into Latin America. I don't know what your markets are, but let's say, Marcela, you're in Colombia and you get a lot of students from Spain, or you get some students from Spain. Best case practice for me is looking at where you have some pipeline. So you have 10 students coming in from Spain, and then setting a target of how do you take that 10 students and how do you make it 20? And how do you expand that pipeline? And you expand the pipeline of working with agents, with a digital marketing strategy, by visiting the country. So I think it's not isolated to Latin America. It's like looking about where you have some capacity, where you have potential now, where you're seeing some traction, where you know your competitor universities are attracting international students, where your partner institutions are sending students from, and then looking to expand your capabilities there and attract more international students from those places. So I think that would be kind of the best case practice, is to build on what you have now and expand. From Uruguay, excellent. To which extent do students base their choices on international university ranking? This is an excellent question, and I went around and I talked about those factors that most impact the student decision-making process. And I talked about safety, I talked about housing, I talked about those type of things. In my experience, what I find is that there's a natural sorting mechanism. So I'll use US just because the institutions are famous. You have a student in Mumbai who's scoring average of 99% in every class. He automatically, or she, will sort themselves into an Ivy League school. They know where their quality level is. When I worked at Thompson Rivers University, we were not a top-ranked university. We weren't in the top 100 rankings. We weren't top 250. Not top 20 in Canada. We were able to recruit over 2,000 international students because we still had a quality education at affordable price with excellent housing options in a very safe environment. So what we see is that I think the most important thing is be who you're going to be, and don't pretend to be Harvard if you're not Harvard. If you're not Harvard, what are you? You are an open access institution. Your admission requirements might be a little bit lower. Those type of things. So while ranking is important, I do believe there are students, international students, for every type of institution. But as I said before in one of the slides, be transparent and be clear and just say, look, we are a top 5 university in Uruguay, and be honest with that. And as long as the quality is there and there's clear promise that they're going to get a good education that's globally recognized, I think you'll be fine. Do you have a book about the subject of the dissertation? I'm not sure what that means in terms of a dissertation, Maria. I do have some interesting information. I have an agent white paper that we produced. It's a kind of a white paper on how to use agents effectively. If you email me, or I can even maybe share with Ismail to share with the group, or I can pass it to you at NAPSA if you're there. So I have a lot of content. I haven't written a book yet. Maybe it's something something I need to do, but no. So the agent white paper would probably be the best thing. Also, I talked about ISEF Monitor, and it's the website and newsletter that we have. If you go to that website and you look and you search anything, digital marketing, Vietnam, Mexico, Canada, we have stories archived in there, and it's a really fantastic source for international student mobility information. It's the best source for international student mobility. So one, the agent white paper that I could share with you if you contact me, to going to ISEF Monitor, and you'll see all that information organized into very
great, Mike.
easily
On behalf of everyone at Riazal and all the attendees, we want to thank you for giving us a lot of light on this very important topic. Dear attendees, you are going to receive a evaluation format shortly. We kindly ask you to answer it because it's going to be a good thermometer for us as we proceed on the next 10 webinars that we still need to produce and offer to the community. And speaking of which, please join us next June the 7th, is a Thursday, as we present the next webinar, and the topic is Estrategias para mejorar la gestión de la movilidad estudiantil en las instituciones de educación superior, and it is out of Guadalajara. We are hosting this webinar. Dr. Magdalena Bustos, who is a member of Riazal and as well a professor and researcher at Universidad de Guadalajara, will be providing us with this webinar in Español. Then, on July 4th, we'll be having one out of the Asociación de Universidades del Grupo Montevideo in Uruguay, again, desafíos actuales en el proceso de la internacionalización y en la cooperación universitaria en América Latina y el Caribe. So please join us, and I want to thank Mike for this presentation and all of you for being with us this afternoon. And it is Teachers Appreciation Day in Mexico. Not a single person attended school today. From K to 12, university, postgraduate studies, it is Teachers Day in Mexico, and here we are working for Riazal and our wonderful webinars. Thank you, everyone, and we'll be seeing each other soon. And of course, we'll be thinking of offering future webinars en portugués, en español, and in English. Bye now. Gracias.